Greetings and welcome to the Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the May stats for Kill Team. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate at Amazon Games, an affiliate code discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But let's get on with today's video. So yeah, once again, I'm covering the global tournament stats for May for Kill Team. These have all been collected via Best Coast pairings and whatever TOs have donated to us personally, but thanks go to Smiles Lies Gunfire, who's collated all of this. You can find his stats website in the episode description below. That will have all the stats up to date for you to play around with, and that will be updated like a day or so after this video. But that's all, so let's get on and see how the stats have done after our first full month of the new Balance Dataslate. So starting off with the country stats, America once again had 50 events, the most events in the world, with 7 GTs and 603 players. Then the UK had 17 events with 3 grand tournaments and 349 players. Spain with 19 events and 294 players. Then Canada, Australia, we have Poland, Germany, going all the way down to the Philippines and Malaysia. So a nice spread of countries once again. And as you can see on the world map, we now include every country, and the brighter your country is, the more players you have. So a nice spread for global kill team. So starting off with the general win rate. So this is for any event with 8 or more players and 3 or more rounds. Remember, we're looking for 55 to 45%. That's the good range. But starting off, we have Higher-Tech with 258 games with a 62% win rate. So it's fine. Chaos Cult, oddly, they weren't doing too well and then picked up near the end. So with 70 games, so a little bit on the low end there with a 62% win rate. So another really good month for them. Sanctifiers, 61% with 260 games. And this is with a lot of top players not running the team. The funny thing to mention with Sanctifiers, they were actually sitting around 50% up until last week. And I know some Sanctifier players were going like, it's okay, now we can go a bit ham. Well, they went too ham and they're now at 61%. Warp Coven with 182 games, 60% as well. So doing consistently well. I believe this is like the 5th month in a row above 60%. Wormblade with only 44 games, or 58%. And then Blades of Cain, 136 games, 57%. And then in the healthy range, we have Nemesis Claw, Brood Brothers, Phobos, Aquilons, Void Dancer True, Pathfinders, Legionary Goremongers, Vespid at 49%, Deathcore, Corsairs, Plague Marines down to 48, Hand of the Archon, Exaction Squad, Angels of Death, Wreckers, Novitiates, and Mandrakes. And then just below the 45% healthy range, we have Kazakin at 44% with 61 games, but this is probably the best win rate they've ever had this edition. Halfkin just dropping down to 44%. Harnkin Jaegers going up to 44%. Galapox up to 44%. Inquisition down to 44%. Ratlings down to 43%, but it's only a minor drop. Scout Squad up to 42%, Blooded down to 42%, Commandos down to 41%, Kroot up to 40%, Felgor down to 40%, Starstriders crashing down to 38%, Hunterclade I think slightly better at 34%, and then Breachers technically slightly better by like 1 or 2% at a 29% win rate. So as you can see in the graph spread, we still have overperforming teams, so Higher-Tech, Chaos Cult, Sanctifiers, and Warp Coven consistently overperforming. Interestingly, this is the first month Brood Brothers haven't overperformed overall, and they have in the last 3 to 4 months were actually above 55%, so there's an interesting drop there. They're at 54, still really good, but not as good as they were in the last few months. But we've also seen Nemesis Claw come up to 54% and Blades of Cain at 57%, which is really nice. Now, we still have a lot of underperforming teams, but the interesting thing to point out with underperforming teams, before they were like at 30-ish, 35%, they've all jumped up to almost good. Like they're almost at 45%. So, and this is only after 1 month of the new Balance Dataslate. So this is 1 month full data. So maybe I'll actually pick up more, but it's actually a really good sign overall, unless you are Felgor, Starstriders, Hunterclade, and Breachers. Like Felgor and Starstriders have had a huge drop off in win rate, but you know, Hunterclade and Breaches basically haven't changed, which means those teams probably still need desperate buffs. But, you know, even though we have more teams in the healthy range, which is really good, we still have the same number of teams overperforming. But the underperforming teams are very close to just being okay, which is actually pretty good to see. Then this is all the podium data. Now, because there are so many games, May was quite a dense month. We've changed it up a bit. So you've got how many times a faction was picked, how many times they got gold, so they won an event, how many times they got second or third, which is non-gold undefeated. And then this also just replaces like how many undefeated players they were who didn't podium, just because you have this more so at free, like normal win rates. So looking at the graph, you can see a Nemesis Claw consistently, they won 12 events, consistently winning the most, and then podium 6 times. Hieratech won 10 events and podium 6 times. Warp Coven podium, like they won 10 events, podium twice. Warp Coven doing amazingly well. Goremongers, even though their win rate is okay, like it's healthy, they've won 9 events and podiumed 4 times. Sanctifiers won 8 events and podiumed 3 times. Aquilons won 7 events and podiumed 5 times. Angels of Death, where they consistently do well. They actually won 7 events and podiumed 4 times. Phobos won 7 events and podiumed 4 times. Legionary won 6 events, podiumed 3 times. Hunkin Jaegers, they won 4 events and podiumed twice. Brood Brothers won 3 events and podiumed 4 times. Pathfinders won 3 events and podiumed 3 times. Plague Marines won 3 events and podiumed twice. And then Mandrakes won 3 events and podiumed once. Then finishing off the ones who won 3 times would be Wreckers, Void Dancers, Scouts. Exaction won 2 events. Chaos Cult, Star Striders, Farstalker Kinband, Halfkin Salvagers all won 2 events. And then Blades of Cain, Wormblade, Corsairs, Inquisition, Hand of the Archon, Felgor, Commandos, Blooded, Novitiates, Kazakin, Ratlins, Breaches, all won 1 event, with Vespid and Deathcore podiuming. The only factions who did not podium whatsoever are Galapox and Hunterclade. So this is actually a pretty good spread. And even factions with terrible win rates, like Felgor and Elucidine Starstriders, actually won events as well. Now we go on to GT Plus. So these are events with 4 or more rounds and 16 or more players. This is kind of the more competitive data, focusing more on GTs, which is data Games Workshop kind of values more. So once again, Hieratech Circle sit on a 67% win rate with 143 games, which is very good for GT Plus. Brood Brothers rocket up to 61%, which is what they've been consistently at when it comes to all win rates in general, and they're at 73 games. Sanctifiers 60% with 157 games. Chaos Cult at 58%, only with 42 games. Phobos Strike Team with 58% at 148 games. Goremongers at 56% with 211 games. Deathcore jumping up to 56% with only 16 games though. Pathfinders jumping up to 56% with 88 games, and then Nemesis Claw at 56% with 237 games. Then within the healthy ranges, you have Blades of Cain, Blooded Legionary, Aquilons, Void Dancer Troop, Novitiates, Warp Coven, Plague Marines, Angels of Death, Wreckers, Wormblade, Exaction Squad, Harkin Jaegers, and Vespid, and Halfkin Salvagers. Now, it is worth pointing out here that Wormblade and Novitiates had 12 and 11 players, like games respectively, which is low, but they still are like in the healthy range. And Halfkin, despite the doom and gloom from the faction, is still in the healthy range, which is good. Now, going below the healthy range, we have Corsairs at a 42% win rate, Galapox going up to a 42% win rate, Mandrakes at 41, Ratlins at 39, Commandos at 36, Felgor at 36, Scouts at 36, Hand of the Archon dropping down to 36, Hunterclade at 35, Starstriders at 34, Farstalker Kinband at 29%, Kazakin at 25%, Inquisition at 20%, and Breaches at 14%. So as you can see in the chart, it's a lot worse when you look at GT+. And this is where it's kind of more reflective due to the Blood and Zeal teams, but also you have teams like Brood Brothers like overperforming, Hieratech Circle like just going, you know, we just want to be nerfed right in the face, which is fine. And yeah, Chaos Code doing well, but they have kind of a lower representation rate. It's interesting to see the underperforming teams kind of do a lot worse in GT Plus. Now there are less games in GT Plus, but it is interesting to see the massive difference when you filter to GT Plus compared to overall. And yeah, it's not a great look. We now have newer teams underperforming, namely teams like Hand of the Archon, as well as stuff like Scouts, you know, Mandrakes coming down, Inquisition really not doing well at all of these longer formats. But an interesting spread. Then for the podium data, here's all the podium numbers, as you can see, for every faction that's featured. And looking at the graph, Hieratech in GT Plus won 7 events, podiumed once, and went, you know, just, well, they podiumed 6 times, right, which is crazy. And they had the second tied highest, well, yeah, undefeated runs, like 3-1 players. So Hieratech are fine, don't worry about it, they're fine. Phobos won 4 events and podiumed 5 times, doing really well. Then Goremongers, Aquilons, Legionary all won 3 events. Brood Brothers won 2, Sanctifiers won 2 as well. And then Jaegers, Void Dancer Troop, and Star Striders all won 1 event. Nemesis Claw podiumed 9 times, but didn't win an event, but also have the highest number of 3-1s. So at maximum 1 loss and 3 or more wins, showing they're just a consistently strong faction. And then when you look at the lower performing factions, they didn't really podium. So Felgor, still, you know, they podiumed once. Plague Marine, well, Pathfinders podiumed 3 times. Plague Marines, they only podiumed twice, but they had a very high ratio of 3-1s, which is very good. Same for Angels of Death, and then it spreads out with the elites doing quite well. Oddly, Warp Coven did not win any GT Plus events or higher, so they are dominating the lower ends, such as with Angels of Death, but they can't mirror the success that Nemesis Claw can like they can, which is very interesting to see. And then you have a lot more teams underperforming in terms of not podiuming or going 3-1 as much, which also is to be expected because this is a smaller data set. Now we go into GT Long. So this is for events with 30 more players and 5 or more rounds. These are for the like super large events. Now this also, while it's a more refined data set showing basically the most competitive events, because these aren't as popular, you're going to not see every faction on here. And here's all the data. So as you can see, Legionary actually did the best with a 67% win rate. Then we had Pathfinders on 65. Sanctifiers was 64. Phobos at 61. Hieratech coming down a bit to 57. Devitiates going up to 57, but only with 7 games. Chaos Cult holding their ground at 56%. Then in the healthy range, we have Warp Coven, Plague Marines, Nemesis Claw, Goremongers, Blades of Cain, Angels of Death, Exaction Squad, Wormblade, Deathcore, Wreckers, and Scouts. And then for underperforming teams, we have Halfkin at 43%, Jaegers at 42, Aquilons at 42, Rattlings at 40, Hand of the Archon at 38, Corsairs at 38 as well, Brood Brothers crashing down to 36%, Boney with 11 games, Vespid at 33%, Felgor at 29%, Commandos at 28%, Void Dancer Troop at 25%, Mandrakes at 17%, and Inquisition, 4 games, the fabled 0% win rate, Inquisition. How times have changed. And once again, here's the graph. It doesn't look great, but GT Long is always a bit wonky. And as I said, it looks smaller because there's less factions. But it's interesting. Oddly, Hieratech Circle is still doing very well, overperforming, but not as much as they are in GT Long. Brood Brothers completely struggle. Like, it's really, this is the first time they've actually done very badly. Like, I think all edition where they've underperformed, especially in GT Long. Usually in GT Long, they're a lot better. But this time they did quite badly. So an interesting flip up there. Now we go into the podium data for GT Long. So all the placement data. And in the chart, you can see Phobos, Hieratech, and Legionary all won one GT Long event, with Hieratech and Phobos also podiuming twice. Sanctifiers didn't win any GT Long events, but they podiumed 3 times and had the highest ratio of 3-1 ratios, which is actually really concerning for this format because that's really hard to do. Like, it's insanely hard. Then you had Nemesis Claw with 1 podium, and then Plague Marines, despite not winning, had a high ratio of 3 wins or more with a maximum of 1 loss, and Goremongers the same. Pathfinders doing really well here, and Angels of Death. Just an interesting spread. Also the same for Wreckers, Aquilons, Warp Coven, and yeah, it's just interesting. Right, Hieratech consistently performing well as Phobos. Legionary managing to win a GT Long event, which is very well done. Like, great work there. And Sanctifiers, yeah, just consistently podiuming or doing very well. And once again, here's all the data. You can see all the events we've used for the month of May. So for the May tournament stats overview, it's this is the first month, full month post Balance Dataslate, and oh my gosh, Hyrotech Circle players, what have you done? They not only like were doing well last month, they were like, we can do better this time. They won several large events, you know. Not only did they win Adepticon last month, they won the US Open in Dallas this time, like going 7 games undefeated. Very, very crazy. Brood Brothers had a really weird month. This time they were just okay overall, overperformed in GT Plus, but then underperformed in GT Long, where previously they've just been consistently overperforming. Sanctifiers, you know, it's really funny because some Sanctifier players were generally tracking the stats, seeing where they were and like happy, like, oh yes, we're at 50%, we're safe. And then like literally this last week, they pushed themselves so hard, they went up to 61%, and like it's really a good ratio of games. The interesting thing we found from the stats, like you can kind of check top players, kinda, and none of them are really running Sanctifiers. It's only really Spain that are, but Spain want to be on brand, which is completely fine. Goremongers, once again, were just fine overall, but then when they went into GT Plus, they actually started doing a lot better, showing they're more better as a like competitive team. And then you even had stuff like Pathfinders doing very well. You know, people are already warning that Pathfinders may be a problem, which they actually probably are. But when it comes to like underperforming teams, overall, most underperforming teams are doing a lot better, and it may pick up in the next month or so. They still need some buffs, but it's also kind of settling around this Blood and Zeal meta. You can see, interestingly, like the Eldari teams haven't done as bad as predicted. Blades of Cain actually had a really good month, being the best performing Eldari team, showing, you know, they are pretty good for an Eldari team. But we had interesting drops like Felgor Ravager have kind of crashed. Not too bad, like 40% from 60 is still a big drop, but it's not terrible. Like Star Striders have crashed down from like 45 down to like 32. It's not really looking good for them. And then Hunterclade and Breaches are just consistently doing bad. Oddly, this wasn't a great month for Inquisition as well. And you can even see Plague Marines, despite having a really good month last month, this month they've done okay, but they've had less games and they've also dropped down in their win rate and they haven't won as many events. Nemesis Claw are consistently performing well. Like they've always done this. They've always, with Angels of Death, they're really good at winning 3-round events or some 4-round events, but they're very good at going maximum 1 loss and at least 3 wins. And Sanctifiers are just consistently consistent, like in a scary way. Now, they didn't win any GT Long events, but they podiumed 3 times, which is crazy, right? Crazy, especially considering like the soft ban people are doing with themselves, but they're still really popular. So it's the meta's still strange, as I said, because while you've got Hyrotech, who generally does have a lot of play into all of the meta, you've got teams that are like good at countering elites, but are completely checked by Goremongers and Sanctifiers. So elites are still having this like comfortable dominance. Warp Coven did really well, but Warp Coven this month, they had a high win rate, but it didn't reflect their performance when it came to podium data. So they weren't doing too well at GT Long or GT Plus when it came to podiuming. Although Felgor did a lot better, which is interesting, showing there's still a lot of dedicated players, that this team is still good. But generally this month, the win rate mostly mirrored the podium data, so there wasn't too much variance. Now, this is only the first month post the Balance Dataslate. We still have the June data, which is to come. June should be quite busy, not as busy as May. Like April was the most busy, then May crashed out. Like May was super packed with events. June should be busy, but not as much. It usually dips down a bit around July, then picks up at like the end of August, going into September, October, because that's when it picks up for all the larger events, such as like WTC, Nova, LVO in October, the World Championships of Warhammer. So you have a lot of big events coming. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. We should have another Balanced Dataslate in July, end of July, and that might be the last Balanced Dataslate before Worlds. But we'll see how it plays out. Currently, like the meta is just strange. And the good thing we can see, the healthy range of teams has widened, and the underperforming teams, despite the fact there's still underperforming teams, there's less of them, and they're very much closer to that healthy range of 45%. And they've also all seen uptake in players, which is really good to see. Like, focusing on that side shows the buffs probably helped a lot. And if this can continue into June, it may mean those teams probably may not need any more buffs. Maybe like the overperforming teams need some nerfs, or if they drop down in the next month, maybe they might need some buffs. But currently the meta's like, it's just weird. It's just a very extreme rock, paper, scissors meta. But it's showing faction performance is still like, faction loyalty and experience is still paying off, which is good to see, as we expect. But May was a very interesting month. But that's pretty much it for me today. Remember, the stats will be down in the episode description. They'll be in the stats website. So thanks goes to Smile, Lies, and Gunfire. Without him, none of this would be possible. But please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of the stats. Did you find them interesting or useful? Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for in the episode description below. In a affiliate link, Games, affiliate link and discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'm just going to shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crit, I have Tom, the Houston Toad, Super Cow, Sam, Nick, Mercenary Q, Mr. Meatwad, Marshall, Lucas, Graham, Fangzu, Draken, Dave Meatswell, Dan, Dada Goldens, Chris, and a Morpheum. So thank you so much for all your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, May was a funny month. Like, watching the stats was oddly quite fine. I was like, oh, I was speaking to Smiles and I was like, oh, I guess Sanctifiers were okay this month. And it was just like, no, they were not okay. But it's like, they're just still crazy. Although Hyrotech were like, it's our turn, boy. But then it was just like weird seeing how it played out. I thought it was going to be a lot more swingy. It's still not as extreme. Personally, I think the Blood and Zeal teams have such a huge effect on the meta at the moment, along with like the general innate power of elites. It makes the game very wonky. And I'm personally more of the mindset like, well, we kind of need to see the June data before I make any solid conclusions. But it's not as bad as I thought. And I'm really impressed by how the underperforming teams are not only more popular, they're doing a lot better, which is really good to see. But remember, no matter what the stats say, you always have a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.